So it wasn't that long ago that CNN came under new management, new leadership, and they were talking a big game, man. I remember reading all the articles. You're like, bro, who, us? What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that, like, we're all about the actual news. We're not going to be bomb throwers, man. We're not going to be extremist. We're going to be, like, reasonable and in the center. And we're going to make sure we go to, like, facts first approach. That's what we're going to do. And we're gonna do well, man. We're gonna gain everybody's trust, and we're gonna freak it in the ratings. This was like the general disposition, and this is what was expected to come. Well, now, as you can see, CNN preaches patience as ratings tank during turnaround. Tank. So, in other words, their ratings were already abysmal. It's not that they just stayed where they were; they got even more abysmal. All right, let me give you some of these facts. CNN's leadership is preaching patience, even though thousands of viewers are abandoning the network during its attempted turnaround, with no indication yet whether it will be rewarded. Cable news ratings are down across the board compared to 2022, when Russia's invasion of Ukraine was fresh in the news. CNN's dip is most dramatic, 61% in prime time in March, with Fox News Channel down 27% and MSNBC down 12%, according to the Nielsen Company. Now, by the way, just to be clear, MSNBC was down the least amount, but they also started out with the fewest viewers. So I know it looks like, oh, MSNBC, are they doing a good job? No, they already had very few viewers, but they held on to more of them. Fox averaged 2.09 million viewers in prime time in March, with MSNBC at 1.14 million and CNN at 473,000. CNN has now dropped below MSNBC when they were consistently second to Fox News for as long as I can remember. And not only did they drop below them, they are way below them. In the key 25 to 54 age demographic for advertisers, CNN is seeing some of its lowest numbers in decades. The key demo, those are the people who actually have the money and buy stuff. This is who all the advertising is geared towards, and this is where CNN is doing its worst. CNN is a year into new corporate management with Warner Bros. Discovery, which hired ex-CBS producer Chris Licht to run the network. The chief goal has been to rebuild trust as a nonpartisan news brand after years of criticism by former President Donald Trump and his followers, at a time Fox and MSNBC have profited handsomely by appealing to specific points of view. Licht's biggest programming move to date, a revamp of CNN This Morning, hasn't borne fruit in the ratings and has been beset by bad publicity, including co-host Don Lemon's ham-fisted reference to a woman's prime years. By the way, I do not at all attribute the total implosion to that Don Lemon moment. It's more all of the decisions the network is making. Changes to CNN's daytime look are imminent. Licht's version for primetime is months away, though, and only beginning to take shape. His plans are to couple news coverage with hosts from different worlds, including entertainment, who can talk about the news without a specific partisan take. This is a weird way of framing it. Without a specific partisan, that's a weird way of framing it. So one of the people who they're thinking of bringing on, and we talked about it before, is Charles Barkley. Now, I love Charles Barkley. Even when I disagree with him, I love him because he's just honest and he's authentic. But even in making a move, which could be a good move, they couch it with this nonsense like, oh, he's not going to have a specific partisan take, bro. No, he will. But that's okay because the key ingredient is the honesty and authenticity. But it's almost like the whole goal of the network for every other show in every other time slot is like, let's be not honest and authentic. Let's be plastic. Let's be fake centrist. And let's stand for nothing. Like, that's the gist. Let's stand for nothing. They're trying to reach this ideal, this fake ideal of neutrality. This fake ideal of like, let's not piss off Republicans and not piss off Democrats. That's never going to happen. And it wouldn't work. You'd have to put a picture of vanilla ice cream on the air for the primetime slot in order to not offend Democrats or Republicans. Like, somebody's going to get offended by everything. But that's okay, as long as you have an honest and authentic voice. But it's almost like they're bending over backwards to not have a voice. Again, the only good move they made, I'd argue, is reaching out to Charles Barkley. I guess they reached out to Jon Stewart, too. That was smart. I think that probably fell through. Bill Maher, too. They have him on, a little time slot for his overtime show. But, that's, I don't know. That's not going to do much. It's only on for, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. Anyway, they continue here. Licht is exploring several possibilities, and CNN is reportedly close to deals with CBS's Gayle King and former NBA star turned sportscaster Charles Barkley for shows that will air once a week, although the network wouldn't confirm that. They're going to have to pay Charles Barkley a lot to get him, even for, one show a week. If Licht's bet pays off, CNN will strengthen its reputation as a news brand while also attracting viewers who are now watching Netflix or HGTV, not just competing news networks. Huh. That's interesting. It's an interesting way to talk about it. They will strengthen their reputation as a news brand while also attracting viewers who are now watching Netflix or HGTV, not just competing news networks. So yeah, but then be honest about what that is, right? And it would be a better move to be sort of lean into having people with opinions who are authentic. You don't do the BS we're just above the fray, nonpartisan, just giving the facts. As those plans develop, CNN's primetime lineup has largely been in flux after Anderson Cooper's hour at 8 p.m. Eastern. The network has experimented with some interviews, even events and subject-focused hours at 9 p.m. Eastern. They include talks with the First Lady Jill Biden and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, and town halls with Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, and one focused on the Ohio train derailment. The news hours that follow, at least for now, are led by Allison Camerota and Laura Coates. Viewers are a bit confused with all the changes, particularly in the primetime lineup, said Jennifer Thomas, a former CNN producer who now teaches journalism at Howard University. She said CNN needs more news that impacts viewers and less analysis. CNN expresses pride in some of the efforts while admitting some are duds. Last Friday, for example, only 295,000 people watched Jake Tapper's interview with Ted Lasso star Jason Sudeikis. It was less than a quarter of the people who saw Alex Wagner's MSNBC show at the same time. 9 p.m. Eastern slot, Nielsen said. David Zaslav, president and CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, delivered a pep talk to hundreds of CNN managers earlier this month to reinforce the message that he wanted to see a network focused on the news that didn't lean any way politically. CNN saw strong ratings under the leadership of Licht's predecessor, Jeff Zucker, and Zaslav said he recognized that a more partisan approach could bring more viewers and money, but that it's not what I came here to do, according to his transcript of Zaslav's speech. He said he hoped the network would be able to figure out what is working and what isn't. He urged the managers to not worry about outside noise. Ratings be damned, he said. Oh, that's glorious. Let's focus on who we are. This is our mission. This is our legacy. And this is our journey together. The question for Licht and his team, as it is often in similar situations, is how much time do they really have, said Mark Whitaker, a former executive at CNN and NBC News. Strong ratings mean more revenue and more money to spend on programming, Whitaker said. Cable news viewership is often very habit-driven, and viewers drawn to personalities they know and trust, he said. For the first 3 days this week, CNN's 9 p.m. Eastern hour had 3 different hosts. Erin Burnett, Pamela Brown, and Caitlin Collins. They all have the personality of a dirty diaper. CNN must wonder whether viewers will lose the habit of tuning in while waiting for the network's true personality to emerge under Licht. A new primetime schedule is not likely until the fall. It doesn't help that many CNN viewers have long considered the network a utility to be used primarily when there are big stories. And it's a relatively quiet period now. An important test will be how many viewers will reflexively turn to CNN during big news events where it has often dominated the ratings. Okay, so there you go. You guys get the gist of it. They are doing historically bad at the moment. Here's the problem. You just heard them say it over and over. Bro, ratings be damned. What we're going to do, we're just going to be nonpartisan, bro. So, all right, hold on. Let's think about this. Yes, it used to be the case. More Democrats watch CNN. It was, sort of just your normie Democrat type would be the kind of person to watch CNN. But now you come along and you go, bro, we're going to quit it with all this nonsense. We're not going to be partisan anymore. Which, let me decode that for you. That's like saying, hey, we're supporting Democrats too much. We need to split the difference and just not be Democratic or Republican and just sort of offend nobody and be middle ground no matter what. Okay, so what's going to happen? You're going to lose the Democrats who watch you, right? They're probably going to go to MSNBC. And you're not going to gain any Republicans because they have Fox News, and the more insane ones have One American News Network and Newsmax. So you're pissing off everybody with your move. Now, look, you can make some sort of argument from principle as to we think this is the right way as a matter of principle to run a news outlet, so we're going to try to stick to this ideal. But here's the problem. The thing that they think is an ideal is fake. The idea of like offend nobody, always be down the middle, that's a neutrality-based network, and that entails lies, right? I mean, the old classic example of this is if you really are committed to being neutral, being down the middle, well, then you would have people on to debate evolution versus intelligent design. And by the way, old school CNN did that. They did that. But that's one of the things you would do. You'd have people on to debate climate change. Is it real or is it fake? They did that, by the way. Marsha Blackburn versus Bill Nye the Science Guy. Maybe you guys remember this. The longtime viewers will remember this. So they tried that neutrality at all costs approach. And what ends up happening is you're just desperately trying not to offend anybody and not to step on toes. So you end up having hosts like Wolf Blitzer who've never had an interesting take in their entire life. And they also have found a way to not discuss any serious or real issues. Because you have to stick to that ethos come hell or high water. And so when you're faced with a situation like Donald Trump getting indicted, by the way, how do you cover that? How do you cover that? What do you do? And it's like, here's the reality. Here's what people actually want. They want somebody who's going to give them information, but then they also want that person to have a take and be authentic, whether they agree or disagree with them. That's it. But they would never, ever, ever do it, even though it's the only way out of their mess. They'd never do that. I mean, to be fair, Charles Barkley is an attempt to move in that direction. I don't know if they'll get him. That'd be the best move they've ever made. Jon Stewart would be a step in that direction. But like, you have to realize that your fake ideal of like just nonpartisan down the middle, that's not a thing. It never will be. And even if it was a thing, it would never get you ratings ever, 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 ever. So you guys know my thing. I've said it before. I'll say it again. One of these networks, if they ever wake up to let me have a network of all authentic truth tellers, give the facts and then give their take and not afraid to sometimes be offensive or whatever, and they had a whole lineup like that, they would crush in the ratings. Fox News would be unseated as the number one news company, even though it's all old people that watch it because old people watch TV more than young people, etc. I still think you could create a network that would beat Fox News, but they'd never do it. Why? Because the exact people who they would need to hire to get those ratings are the last people they would ever consider, ever. I have no doubt that if I had a show on CNN, I would be number one in the ratings within a year. No doubt about it. But they never do that. And by the way, I also don't want to go on there, so I'm a bad example, right? But you could create a network that gets great ratings and does a good job, but they would be scared of their own shadow. They wouldn't want anybody being offensive or stepping on toes or being edgy or saying something that's true but harsh. And so they'll just default to people like Wolf Blitzer, people like Anderson Cooper, right? And those guys are never going to get great ratings. Charles Barkley is the only one I've seen where, like, that's actually a good idea. And he's the only one who somehow gets under the radar for these people because he's such a big name. He's been around for so long. He's, like, grandfathered in. Kind of like in the same way South Park gets to, like, make edgy jokes and they're just grandfathered in because it's just like, oh, that's South Park. Charles Barkley's kind of like that, too. So I hope he gets a show because I would actually unironically watch that and enjoy it. But watching CNN continue to tank is hilarious because they still don't understand why they're tanking. And I don't know if they ever will. I don't know if they'll ever understand it. This thing they're striving for as an ideal is actually even worse than what they had previously. All right, guys. I love y'all. Thank you, as always, for listening to my dumbass babble. I'll talk to everybody soon. Do me a favor, click the like button, click the subscribe button. Trying to climb. Maybe we'll get to 2 million one day. I guess we'll find out. And remember, you guys could always support the show on Patreon, support Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack, and listen to the full audio version of the podcast over on Spotify. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.